Superhero sound.
Welcome to the Level Up Podcast, hosted by Professor Lynn Wilson of Spark U and Dr. Jamal Boyd of Empowering Community Entrepreneurs. It's time to level up. Let's go. More money, that's a level up. More godly, that's a level up. More knowledge, that's a level up. More power, I just leveled up. More money, that's a level up. More godly, that's a level up. More knowledge, that's a level up. More power, I just leveled up. Level up, 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 level up. I'm on my grind, watch me level up. I use my mind, watch me level up. God on my side, watch me level up. Tune in right now to the level up. They say that knowledge is power. Growing my strength as I read every hour. If you knew what I knew, every villain would cow. Make the most of my 24 like I'm Jack Bauer. Ain't here for nothing, I'm meant to do something, no doubt. I ain't bluffing, God got me, I'm covered. A king live abundant my life, yeah, I love it. Let's have a discussion to end all the suffering. Yeah, entrepreneur, that's that boss talk. Legal leaders, we are all stars. Generational wealth is what I'm on. Faith, family, finances, that's all God. Oh Lord, told him that I'm made for this. Oh boy, told him that I make it rich. Learn from Dr. Bowen and Professor Lynn. Listen close, level up when you catch these gems. More money, that's a level up. More godly, that's a level up. More knowledge, that's a level up. More power, I just leveled up. More money, that's a level up. More godly, that's a level up. More knowledge, that's a level up. More power, I just leveled up. Level up, 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 level up. I'm on my grind, watch me level up. I use my mind, watch me level up. God on my side, watch me level up. Tune in right now to the level up.
Is the software that run these machines. Without them, you cannot deal with any combo.
Midway in college. So there I did IT, project management, and like a little bit of engineering, intern stuff. And then I worked at Panasonic, doing like data science and then software. And then most recently, Alto Pharmacy doing data engineering. So yeah, that's my background.
Well, how was the Panasonic gig? That was what I was the last career track I had heard you were at. Was at the cool little building off 61st and Pena, so which was right near my house. So what were you doing over there?
Panasonic was great. At 61st and Pena, that's their smart mobility office. So there's a few projects based out of that office around like smart mobility. So in particular, my project was Cirrus. It is like a connected vehicle platform. So we were working with various like departments of transportation to like deploy hardware, because Panasonic's mostly known for like hardware to like detect connected vehicle messages, and then like my part was to like build software to like ingest those messages, process them, detect like critical safety information. So like if there was a crash, is there like weather going on that we need to notify people about? Can we detect those? Can we inform traffic operators about it? So like the people in the government offices, and can we inform like the drivers about it? Like, can we send messages directly back to their cars? So yeah, very cool project.
That sounds so cool. All right. Well, as I guess you kind of started us out, Joey, with your background and stuff, and definitely happy to have you on the team, and you're wanting to give back and pay it forward to the folks that are coming behind you, especially considering you are a Colorado Future Tech alum that started with them at what age?
This was like ninth grade.
Ninth grade, and now a big time engineer. That's just, it's amazing. And so we have another Colorado Future Tech alum that has joined our team, Grant Pullen. So Grant, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give a little background.
Um, so like Dr. Lynn said, I am a Colorado Future Tech alum, and I joined the program when I was, I think, ninth grade or eighth grade as well. So I did the eighth grade, or I did the computer networking, the Cisco computer networking program certification class when I was in eighth grade, and I went on to teach the class when I was a sophomore in high school, or not teach the class, but I was an assistant teacher for the class. But yeah, from there, I got an internship with Triunity as well, where I think I met Joey there once. So I remember that.
Okay, yeah,
But
I thought you were familiar. Cool. All right.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess what I was focused on mainly because of my mechanical engineering background, or the background that I wanted to go into at the time. I was mainly seeing AutoCAD, which is part of the engineering side of the engineering and management for Triunity. Uh, so yeah, that's where I was first introduced to AutoCAD, and I was just kind of tinkering around with CAD softwares back then. But yeah, I from there I went on to attend 4 years at Prairie View A&M University, where this is where I was with well, pretty much up until yeah, that's where I was up until this upcoming semester, this summer, uh, where I'll be at CU Denver.
So am I to understand you transferred to CU Denver?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. And why, you just miss Denver that much?
Well, I was on a scholarship there, and my scholarship was coming to an end. And it would just be simplest for me to finish my courses closer to home. So I decided to come back to Denver.
Man, I had that struggle every semester. I was an undergrad. But my pride wouldn't let me. But now my debt is telling me, my school loan debt is telling me, yeah, you should have did that, bro. But we all make our decisions, and I think that it's commendable that you actually have experience, the HBCU side of things. So why don't you speak to that compared to, of course, Denver's education style?
So I guess being in a class with mostly African American students compared to my high school, where I was kind of grouped along with I guess students who were either white or Hispanic majority. Uh, so I guess the classrooms they're a lot more. Well, the classes I were in weren't much different themselves because there were still 20 to 30 people. So the size of the class didn't really affect me as much, but the I guess the demographic of the class, like going along with the words that we were learning in the class with Ms. Josette, the demographic of the class. Yeah, I guess that shoot, I guess how it would be, or how it affected me differently from the courses that I was taking in Colorado. Uh, I don't know, because I guess it allowed me more opportunity to contribute to the course itself, if that makes sense. Because I wouldn't be as shy being a minority in the course. So I was able to raise my hand more often, or collaborate with students on a subject that we were discussing on the board. It was just more inclusive to me while I was there, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know how this has become Lynn's undergraduate journey, but you guys have really triggered a lot with your journeys. But for me, it's like I really wanted to go to Morehouse. Like I really wanted to follow in Dr. Martin Luther King's footsteps. So I was trying to follow his pathway. And so I was accepted into Morehouse. I was super stoked. My uncles had already lived there until I got the financial aid package. And that changed everything. They gave me a whopping $300 scholarship for like $13,000 a year private school. And OU was like giving me a full ride engineering scholarship. So that was an easy decision, but obviously, you know, very different experience, very, very, very significantly different experience. I was 1% of the African American students that were on that campus. So if you can imagine, out of 25,000 students at that time in the early 90s at OU, there was probably more international students than there were African American students. And so out of that 250 students on Norman's campus, they were either part of my program that I was in, the minority engineering program, or they were athletes. There was very few, you know, middle class African Americans that decided to go to OU without some kind of incentive of going to OU back in the early 90s. So that was my experience. So we have some other wonderful teammates that I definitely want to give, let them have audience. So if y'all can keep it brief, just quick 60-second bios before I get into kind of the overview of SparkU.
I'll go. My name is Whitney Jones. I met Mr. Wilson when I was a senior in high school. I graduated from East High School, and I did concurrent enrollment at CCD, and he was my first business teacher. So introduction to business, and then I got my associates from CCD. I got my bachelor's from UC Denver, and I just got my master's from CSU in May. So he was my first business teacher, and I got my MBA, so I finished with business. And I'm currently in commercial real estate as an assistant real estate manager for CBRE.
Fantastic, Whitney. Thank you for joining us. Who's next? I guess ladies first. Go ahead, Josie.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Josette Martinez. You can call me Josie. I am going on 19 years as a high school educator. I offered dual credit for business classes, which is how I met Dr. Jamal and Professor Lynn when I was adjuncting through CCD. I taught in Denver Public Schools for the majority of my employ as a teacher. I started at Career Education Center, and then I went and opened a business program at Denver West. And then I moved from that school and opened a business program and pathway at a school called the Denver School of Innovation and Sustainable Design. That's a mouthful, but it's a very tiny school. And then from there, I moved to the District of Mapleton Public Schools, and I'm currently still there. I've been running a 21st Century Grant program for the last 3 years. I provide before and after school and out of school time programming for kids aged kinder through 12th grade. So it's been a great ride. And then I'm also doing some virtual teaching for SparkU.
We're delighted to have Josie on the team. We've been trying to figure this out for over a year. She actually has been on the SparkU team before. She was our coordinator. When was that, last year or the year before?
Summer before last, I believe, or maybe it was last summer.
It might have been last summer. We were trying to make a family steam camp in Steamboat happened.
Steamboat. Yes. Yes.
And unfortunately, that summer, everybody and their mom was ready to go to the mountains because that was kind of the first post-COVID summer. And it was booked like no one's business up there.
Couldn't even get like a little space. Yeah,
No,
it was
no.
rough.
So we'll revisit that again, I'm sure. But I'm very delighted to have you as one of the up and coming instructors now on the sports
Likewise,
team.
happy to be here.
All right. I guess Dr. JB.
All right. Jamal Bowen, got my start first before higher ed was actually international work. I had the opportunity to serve as an observer for the presidential elections in Monrovia, Liberia in 2017. Got to help kind of work with the youth there as well as try to put together some type of business entrepreneurship program with the university out there as well. After all of that, coming back to the US, I was kind of looking at ways I could grow my business. So at the time, I have a business called Empowering Community Entrepreneurs, where I do business development, trainings, workshops. And I was looking at ways on how I could collaborate with different organizations. And so I started reaching out to different councilmen, councilwomen, leaders, professors. And so as I was doing my research, Professor Lynn popped up as a professor teaching business at the time. And so I reached out to him via email, didn't know him at all prior to that. And then sent him an email. Kind of the email was just highlighting some of the work I did and my passion for community and what I was looking to do. And so ended up having a meeting with him. During that meeting, he was just kind of like, you know what, looking at your credentials, at the time I had my master's, he was like, you know what, you can teach at the college level. And so, I was like, okay, sure. That really wasn't my mindset, but it kind of, him and another professor were kind of like promoting it, like, no, this is something you can do and get your feet in the door. So I ended up working under him. At the time, he was the chair, so kind of like the principal. I was teaching intro to business and entrepreneurship under him. And then as that, I started to grow within Community College of Denver, had the opportunity to serve as a chair, and then also had the opportunity to serve as a dean of STEM and manufacturing at Community College of Denver. Only Black dean, youngest dean at the time. And so I served from August to December of 2022. After 4.5 years at CCD, I ended up leaving and going independent this year, working alongside Professor Lynn on all the programming we're doing this year. And then I also still do a little bit of work with Red Rocks Community College. So I'm running their entrepreneurship center. And so it's just been a great opportunity. I was actually awarded my doctorate. So I have an honorary doctorate in public service. I received it for the Denver Institute of Urban Studies and Adult College. And just a community person, just a person who's always been wanting to help the community in any way I could. But my start wasn't the typical start. Even though I had received my master's, that didn't mean I knew business the way I thought I knew business. And so the biggest thing about that and why I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship is that it's really a hands-on thing. You can't just talk about it. You got to also be able to do it. And that was something I learned along my journey was that, yeah, you have a degree or a master's and all this is great, but what are you doing to apply it? But Professor Lynn and I have worked together from the time he hired me, 2018, to now being partners in a lot of these programs we're providing throughout the year.
Amen. I am just over the moon proud of Jamal and just his dedication and commitment to community. He was that way before I met him, and he's been that way ever since. And I just am, proud to call him not just a brother, but a partner, And I believe that for actually everybody that we engage with. I've really struggled with this whole concept of employee employer, because I've never saw Spark You that way. Because I want to be able to work alongside like-minded people. So that's a different relationship to me. To me, everybody should have their own empowerment, their own freedom and flexibility to do what they want to do, and they should be able to choose, how they engage with whatever the work is, obviously with some structure behind it. And so I'd like to believe that everyone on this call has their own mind, they have their own will, their own causes, callings, and crusades, and you're just coming alongside with Spark You to hopefully help you level up and help others level up. Go ahead, JB. You had something.
Yeah, just to share just a really quick story. So when I first started with Professor Lynn at CCD, they gave me the hardest time, and him the hardest time on my credentialing. So they pretty much said I couldn't teach intro to business, but I could teach a higher class that was higher than intro. And so as we were doing that, I was getting letters from, individuals I worked with. So former Minister of Foreign Affairs, which was a woman. So if you are familiar with the stature of that, she was pretty much the boss. She was under the president. That the president and vice president were only ones above her. So I got a letter from her and submitted it to the CCD credentialing. They still said no. I got letters from so many people in the community. They kept saying no, kept saying no. What I mean, and the reason I bring this up is that even though they were saying no, God was still pushing me forward. So they told me no, I became a chair. They told me no, I became a dean. They kept telling me no when I was a dean. And then, of course, now I'm doing the work we're doing in the community and what we're doing in Montbello of creating a business center. So even though those no's, they kept telling me no, I was still propelling, still moving forward. And I just wanted to share that because they even gave me a hard time and gave Lynn the hardest time when he's trying to credential me. And to the point we had to get so many other people and professors to help out, but it was more of maybe a personnel issue than more of my credentialing. But even through that, I was still able to build my resume, still able to grow. So I say that to say is that even though people are telling you no right now, for those of you who are that interns or anybody on this call, that no, even though they're telling you no, God is still pushing you forward through it. So I just wanted to share that really quickly.
I would like to echo the same thing. I came to education as a third life. So I started my career experience as an executive, working my way up from the bottom all the way up to executive by the time I was 23 years old. And that was also something that everybody said no to. And I took advantage of all of those opportunities to be in front of a group of people doing facilitation and that sort of thing. So my first life was definitely in the corporate world. My second life, I left that corporate world. And when I was up for a promotion, I actually stepped back to part-time and I opened up my own business that I ran for nearly 15 years. So that entrepreneurial spirit, guys, that is definitely something that is a calling and that you recognize in many different facets of your life. It does call to that. And so for us to be able to be connected with Dr. Jamal and with Professor Wilson, it's just amazing because they have often helped me figure out how coolio I am, especially when I'm feeling down. And then I go to them and they're like, but look, you've got all of this. And so what can we do with the things you do have? So do recognize that any little strange, weird idea that might not look completely developed yet is definitely this space to speak about. Because after going through an entrepreneur experience myself, coming to education through an alternative license was a really amazing endeavor and something that is possible for many people. I had the same experience as you, Jamal. when I was at CCD getting my adjunct status through Dr. Carroll, who was the president of Lynn, and we figured out a way to get that done. And then I went back years later to get my MBA to be able to offer higher ed college courses to high school students. So that is unheard of that we could be doing that at that time frame. So I agree, Jamal, you got to ask for it, and then we can all collaboratively figure out a way to get that done.
Lately, I've been sharing this little ditty to folks in relation to that, because I agree. Josette had the hardest time getting credentialed. And they kept telling her, oh, you don't have your master's. But I have like 20 years experience in business. I have this, I have that. Very, very stringent rules sometimes in higher ed. So even if you were thinking of becoming a professor in computer science or engineering, be a little mindful that, you know, you may get pushback if you don't have a master's or higher. But there's ways around that, but just know the easier path would be to have an MBA, you know, a master's in your field. So this little ditty I like to share with people is, don't fire yourself before someone else does. I see it way too often, especially with folks of color. And I think part of that is the imposter syndrome. You know, maybe we don't feel like we're deserving of it, or we aren't ready, or I'm not ready to get ready. You know, obviously our audience, we're dealing with a lot of folks of color. And so we see that psychosis play out in all kinds of different ways. But at the end of the day, this career is supposed to take care of you and your people, your family, whatever, your bills. So when you fire yourself before you're even hired, that's one chance you've canceled of getting to the bag. That's one client you've canceled before the client said no. That's one contract that may have multiple commas on it that you've just dismissed because you said you weren't ready or you aren't equipped. Earn while you learn. Get equipped. Go, trust a process. It doesn't have to be our process, but trust a process that you have seen help people become successful. But don't fire yourself before the person on the other side has. I see it way too often. AB?
Yeah, just to add, and also, you know, your team is very valuable. I think, and I believe, and I know we have an amazing team. These ladies that work with us are a reason why we're able to keep this going. So as you all are developing your team after you go through this process, you think about the characteristics and the type of mindsets you want to have on your team, because Lynn and I wouldn't be able to do this alone. It's too much work, but also you got to be able to grow a great team. And I believe in our team has so many different skills and backgrounds. And so, I mean, for me, you know, I took a risk, you know, me leaving CCD, you know, serving as a dean, you know, that's comfortable, right? Or just, even though I was going to serve as a dean, they didn't want me to come back as dean. And so that was an issue with my chairs and faculty. They were upset about that. But I think the thing was CCD did offer me another position to come back to, and I told them no. So I left, you know, that comfortability and, you know, steady paycheck to really follow my dreams. And so that's also something else to think about too. And so I just wanted to share that. I just do appreciate our team very much. And so I wanted to make sure they hear it every time or every chance I get.
All right. Well, usually, so I also want y'all to know, you know, like we have quite a few believers on our team. I typically will open up a meeting in prayer or close out a meeting in prayer. You know, for me, that is very important because I probably wouldn't be doing this work, guys, to be honest with you, if I didn't have a belief in the Lord and belief in God, because prior to really being sold out Christian, it was very selfish. I would say that, I would think I was a pretty selfish person. And so it has truly opened up my heart and mindset to realize that life is bigger than yourself. Life is bigger than a career. Life is bigger than a paycheck. It's bigger than a zip code you want to live in. There's so much work on this earth that can be done to make it better for your current generation and future generations. But you have to be willing to seek the truth and seek that love is more powerful than anything that is going on in the world. There is a lot of darkness in the world. There is a lot of violence in the world. And those things may or may not go away, but we have an option to be leaders that can influence how much of that darkness is put out there. I mean, when I see commercials like Diablo 4 and all these other foolishness type of video games that are really promoting violence or promoting darkness, it may seem cool on the surface. It may be attractive on the surface because, hey, it's just a video game, but it's a messaging behind that stuff. And you have to be conscious of, like, what kind of messaging do you want to even put out there? What kind of environment do you even want to craft and curate for people to be attracted to? And so I try to be as mindful as I can about those kind of things, even in our STEM program, and especially for our youth, right? Is like, what do we present to them that allows them to foster more good in the world? I think that's what I really enjoy about being a social entrepreneur or a social oriented entrepreneur, because my master's thesis was on corporate citizenship, which is basically how can companies be more philanthropic? And because I always believed that capitalism can do good. It doesn't have to just be about the almighty dollar. It's how you invest those dollars. It's how you invest the profit. It's even how you run your business. And so I did share the document with everybody. Hopefully you got the Google Doc that kind of outlines everything that's going on in SparkU right now. I know a lot of times people ask me, what is it? What is SparkU? And, I think it may play to my superpower of being a connector, and a collaborator is that, the mission is to foster that collaboration. It's there to create more access and opportunities for others, to show up, first of all, to skill up, to start up, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to start businesses, and to scale up. In other words, maybe they already have a business or a project going, but they need help growing it. So what do we do about us? We cultivate untapped entrepreneurial talent, and we help freelancers, we help self-employed folks, we help startups, we help side hustlers. We get the resources they need to start, sustain, and showcase their businesses. And we found kind of a unique way to do that through community service. And so a lot of the primary way we do it is through STEAM-oriented workforce training. For those who may not know what STEAM stands for, it's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We believe the art part is important because that's where the creativity comes into play. That's where the innovation comes into play. And, AI, artificial intelligence, may figure that out sooner or later, but for now, thank God, humans still corner the market on innovation and artistry. We also do a lot of entrepreneur camps, which are usually led by Dr. Jamal Bowen. And then during the summers, primarily, we run youth programs all the way. We've run youth programs for as young as first grade, but typically we run them from 5th to 12th grade. When I first started this business, you know, social media was just coming into play. Facebook was starting to blow up. And I thought about kind of like the crux of that, like what is that going to do in terms of democratizing communication and business? And at that time, everyone was calling it a social network. And I'm like, well, social to me just means people getting together or slapping fives or liking and subscribing and don't even know why. I wanted to create a network that supported the people that came on board of it. So I like to think of SparkU as a support network for the people that are in it, as well as a support network for people that are that we partner with. So our aim is really to target the underrepresented, the underserved, the marginalized communities that to help them gain the skills, the networks, the system know-how that is needed to become the next generation of business leaders and social entrepreneurs. We encourage our clients to establish careers that they can be passionate about, that can boost American innovation, that can create jobs, equalize opportunities for people, and help companies as well to leverage that untapped talent that is found so often in disadvantaged and minority communities. And I think the reason I'm so big on that is because I come from a disadvantaged minority community. I came up through Montbello, which is located in Denver, Colorado, which was a great community, probably one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the city at that time. But a lot of times that was not looked at as a strength. It was looked at as a pariah. It was looked at as, well, they don't deserve to have the same type of amenities and facilities as more the core city folks were getting. And literally we would have to drive outside of our neighborhood for probably at that time, 75% of goods and services that we needed. And that hasn't changed much today, but we'll get into some of the projects we're doing later. We are a mobile-friendly incubator. And we really have kind of honed in on creating structured, accelerated pathways to entrepreneurship and technically licensed trades. We are a local and virtual community resource. A lot of this stuff that we provide as a resource was created by entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs. We are a mentoring network. So part of this process is that, we all have a mentoring heart. We want to see you succeed in whatever you want to pursue. And we know that it requires you to have a guide on the side, not a sage on the stage, but, hey, we're going through challenges just like you're going through, but let's work through them together. What attracts our audience? Typically, like our apprenticeship opportunities, our internship opportunities, and networking. When people find out what we do, that's usually how it happens. I think our training is affordable because we've learned how to not really charge what we charge directly to the participants and the students. We really work hard to get that subsidized by the host nonprofit or corporation or whoever their particular audience is. We try to get them to sponsor those students as opposed to asking the students themselves to use the money out of pocket. We have multiple pathways to success with real mentorship, you know, not just saying we'll do it and then don't. And I do think that what also attracts our audience is the speed. You know, most of our training methods are between 4 to 8 weeks. We take pride in that because we know, at least from a college post-secondary perspective, that most college courses are done in 12 to 16 weeks. So what is the culture of Spark U? It's a collective. It's a collective of like-minded entrepreneurs who want to achieve their goals together. We're not bound by an office space. We're not bound by one location, brick and mortar. It's more of an agreement that it's better to get stuff done together than by yourself. We believe that everybody on our team, and Dr. Jamal mentioned that prior, that we all bring skills. We all bring something to the table. We all bring some kind of capital. And it's not, you know, when most people think of capital, they think of money or, you know, assets. But we believe intellectual property, we believe skills are also other assets. Our format does not lean on traditional classroom lectures and readings. I think you've been seeing that a little bit this past week with how we've facilitated our entrepreneur camp and our professional communication camp. Spark U, really, we tried to create an immersive experience, right? And most, if you know, like, we want that enthusiasm that we have to rub off on our participants. And we play that mentor role, we play that practice boss role for accountability, right? A lot of times with certifications, if it's just kind of an online self-paced thing, most people are not going to be motivated to just do it on their own by themselves. Very, very few people in our audience would be able to manage going through this training just on their own in a short amount of time, that's for sure. So we're like your accountability partner, and I think that's part of our secret sauce too. You know, there's so many connections that you're going to make by just being in our process. Joey's already kind of experienced that just from a phone call we had last night with one of our partners. That's to me the real value you're going to get from working with us, is like you're just going to have these serendipitous type of experiences, because me and Jamal, we experience them all the time. We really do. So Dr. JB, you want to talk about just some of our partners?
Yeah. So some of the partnerships we have, a good example, Montbello Organizing Committee is a partner where we are actually doing that feasibility study with them. They brought us on as consultants to be able to help them create a business center in Montbello. So some of the needs Lynn had addressed or discussed briefly about the needs in Montbello. And I think the biggest thing about it is the change you want to make in your community. Being a Montbello resident myself, growing up there, you know, we always saw that we didn't have much, but we made the best of it. And so I knew when I grew up, I always wanted to be part of that change and be part of making something better out of it, out of that neighborhood, especially it being considered the most diverse neighborhood in the city. And Lynn and I are not just saying that because we grew up there. The city reps told us themselves that that is the most diverse neighborhood in the city. So leaders, councilmen, councilwomen have told us this. So it's not us just saying that because we grew up there. But I mean, you can't just talk about it if you really want. And this is what we're so happy about being part of this, and our team helping us with this, is that we're becoming stakeholders, right? We're becoming part of that. We're not just talking about it or complaining about it, but we're putting action towards it. And so that's what we're very excited about, that Montbello Organizing Committee opportunity. Cross purpose, we had the opportunity to train 13 leaders in the span of 4 or 5 months. 10 out of those 13 leaders were able to pass the communication skills for business certification that we're teaching this summer with Colorado Future Tech. And so that was just a great opportunity to work with those leaders. Those leaders come from underrepresented, underserved neighborhoods, have gone through some obstacles in their lives that they were overcoming. And so, and to tell you, they're not college prep like you, Joey and Grant. Definitely not college prep, definitely not college student. But they were able to pass a certification that is college level. So it just shows what they're able to do with the right mentorship, training, and what we were able to do to help guide them in 4 weeks. So our challenge was 4 weeks. And so that's why we kept that same motto of doing all those certs in 4 weeks, because cross purpose is what motivated us to do it that way, or do that model. As you all know, Colorado Future Tech, we've been working with them the past couple of summers doing these trainings. So you all are familiar with that, which is great. BBI, Professor Lynn works very closely with them around different events, resources that they provide for communities of color, workshops, and so on. And then PCs for People is another partner of ours. They're our IT partner, or they also provide computers, laptops for the community. And then they're also going to be one of the partners that help us with the pitch night that we're looking to put together as an independent organization. Brief story, we've done a lot of these pitch nights, but we always done it with another organization, and we weren't like the face of it, even though we did do it. So we did a lot with Community College of Denver. Also, we did a pitch night and workshops with African Leadership Group, which is at the bottom, where we trained their entrepreneurs, and we had 14 businesses pitch their businesses for African Leadership Group, and first place received $10,000, second place $5,000, and third place received $2,500 for their pitch competition we did. But what's unique with the PCs for People is the pitch night we want to do with them is going to be more around the youth, and the youth sharing their ideas and pitching their businesses. We've done a lot with adults. So this is more an exciting opportunity to really have the youth lead it and put it together. As some other partners, NAACP, Aurora, Energize Colorado, Professor Lynn and I did a training with them last year, where we did like a 3-day workshop where we talked to their entrepreneurs about entrepreneurship and the purpose behind it. But Energize Colorado, if you're not familiar, is an organization that provides funding opportunities, whether grants or loans, and other resources to help businesses to grow and be successful. Of course, the Boys and Girls Club Montbello, I'm a product of that Boys and Girls Club. So is Professor Lynn, where they provide after-school programming and summer programming for youth, primarily to keep them out of trouble. And also to engage them and expose them to other things besides what they're familiar with. And so Boys and Girls Club was a huge thing for me. Community College of Aurora, as you all know, we've done work with them, programming, certs. Community College of Denver as well. Hope Online Learning Academy, just another partner working with youth, providing a lot of the work we already do. So these partners kind of just help us expand and reach more, because with collaboration, you can touch so many more communities. And so that's why we value our partners, because they help us reach where we can't reach. And so that's kind of the big thing within these partners. And of course, this list is growing. This is just a little bit, but the list is going to continue to grow and so on. And then I mentioned African Leadership Group as an example of us doing entrepreneurship training with them, and Amazon was one of their sponsors. And then that's how the three winners were able to receive so much funding. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's go over the values. We have about 6 minutes, so I'm going to go through these pretty quick. So teamwork makes the dream work. There are no Lone Rangers around here. If you're stuck, if you said you're going to do something, but for some reason it just keeps getting deferred because you can't figure it out or you're shy and don't want to ask, you have to. Even if it's just a text, you know, you gotta communicate. Communication is key. Sometimes our process and our culture doesn't work for everybody, especially for people who may feel like they're a rock star or superstar and they got this, and you know, that doesn't really work with us. Only not because we don't think you could knock it out the park on your own, but because other people are depending on your contribution. And if you aren't willing to like communicate how you're contributing, then we won't know. And then we may overlap what you're doing, and then it just is a hot mess. So we like to do things in teams, even if it's just a team of two. That's better than doing it by yourself. Hence why you see two people co-teaching the class. It's not that one person couldn't facilitate, because I mean, we're professors, we know how to do that. It's because we are cross-training the assistant instructor who's co-teaching, so that if we get another opportunity to teach a camp and maybe one of our teammates isn't available, well, because the other person was also co-teaching, we would just call them and say, hey, are you available? So it spreads the options of having someone still take that opportunity, instead of saying, oh, sorry, we don't have anybody available, you know, doesn't work for their schedule. So we're creating a network of a lot of contingency instructors. So if you always have somebody working alongside of you, then that means that you're also cross-training that person and giving them an opportunity that they may not have ordinarily gotten when something else pops up. Hold on, I'm not done with the values. Hold on. Collaboration is crowdsourcing. I think I've pretty much said that. It was my story. Love is the source. If you manage with love and consideration for others, in every decision, every negotiation, use the filter of love. That's easier said than done. I know. Being a business owner, it's tough, but I've found that if you can go back to that, you're gonna do better in the long run. Mutual support, mutual respect, that's for everybody. We invest in people first. We are in business to serve more people over time. If revenue and profit growth come along with that, it's a bonus. That is probably, you know, one of the biggest, it's not anti-capitalist. It's not. I mean, we have to make enough money to keep our lights on. But I guess our primary importance is impact, right? What that means is we're trying to get to more people. How can we get to more people so that they can get into the abundance of having a career that will help them to take care of their families or future families better. We want our company and our members to help shift the business economy mindset. The fourth shift is from consumption to contribution. The second shift is from transaction to trust. The third shift is from isolationism to global community. And the fourth shift is from scarcity to abundance. I did not come up with these four mindsets. This was something introduced to me by an early founder of my company. She was amazing. Her name was Nicole. When I was telling her about this vision of Spark U, she introduced me to a lot of different social entrepreneurs. She had me watch a lot of videos about social entrepreneurship, and this particular paragraph that I had learned really stuck to me, and I thought I'm going to incorporate that as some of the values of Spark U. And then lastly, but certainly not the least, God gives us more than enough for us to overcome life. It's very important for me to have God incorporated into this company. Sometimes it surprises people when, I ask if we can pray before the meeting or pray after the meeting, but you'd be surprised that the surprise isn't necessarily an offense to them, more so than a breath of fresh air. And so that is something that is great. We want to represent a breath of fresh air. We want to represent light and salt to the world and not add to all the detriment and poison that happens in the world. Okay, next. So, interns, what are you getting out of all this? You're going to have the opportunity to learn from us, other entrepreneurs, but you're also going to be able to contribute your skills, your talents, your experience. We respect whatever you bring to the table. You're going to be able to deepen your own knowledge of what business really means in the 21st century. Definitely it means having digital skills. A lot of our work is collaborative. It's through the cloud. And so you're definitely going to have exposure to that. Our hope is that you're going to continue developing yourself personally and professionally, because whatever project you take on may be totally new, might totally be outside of your comfort zone. But that's the point, isn't it? I mean, it wouldn't be, to me, a good internship if all I had you do was fetch people's copies and coffee. So that's kind of what you're signing up for, right? Is you're going to be helping facilitate social entrepreneurs. You're going to help connect people. You're going to help with skills training. You're going to be introduced to community leaders. And yeah, we just want you to be involved. Go ahead and skip. So what's going on? What are we up to? Well, as JB already mentioned, we just completed workforce training with our newest partner, Cross Purpose. We were able to train 13 leaders in our communication skills for business certification, which we're also doing with youth right now. We were able to help 10 out of those 13 leaders pass a college level exam in just 4 weeks. And our hope is that we will also prove that model with youth as well, that we're going to help them pass the same cert in 4 weeks. We want to, in a few, like right now, we're trying to figure out how to recruit more people to do our programs. And so one way to do that is through workshops. And I know Joey is going to be asked to actually not provide a workshop, but be a guest speaker and talk about his career pathway. So that definitely aligns with what we want to do in the future more and more for the public, is provide like these guest speaking and workshop engagements dealing with things like mental fitness and career coaching and exploration and digital and financial literacy. So that's something that you guys could help us to introduce to our partners, is like, how can we come alongside your audience and just let them know we exist? And from there, once they see the value we add, you know, hopefully they'll want to go deeper. They'll want to know, hey, how can I take a training with you guys? You know, I want to get skills training, or how can I get an apprenticeship through you guys? Okay, go ahead, scroll. So this is where we're at right now, is that we are doing summer programming. Now this list has 5 camps, but we're actually on bringing on board a 6th camp, which will be facilitated at the end of June by one of our nonprofit partners called Kings and Queens, and they are going to have an in-person camp. That was our big push this year. We wanted to be able to provide an in-person summer camp, and so that's going to be in Montbello, and that was the other thing too. That was our 2 main things we wanted to accomplish this summer for youth: to do an in-person camp and to do it in Montbello. So Kings and Queens has recruited over 20 students to make that happen. We're very proud that we've been a long time partner with Colorado Future Tech. And, you know, we touch quite a few youth through their programming, but we want to expand, and we want to touch more youth, because we know youth are our future. And a lot of times youth in underserved neighborhoods don't have a lot of options for STEM-based programming. A lot of it is usually athletic, and we want something for people's mind as well. Okay, go ahead. In the fall and winter, we are planning on reintroducing our Startup Fest event series, but the primary focus of that is going to be this Pitch Night Youth Challenge. Now, the goal is for each team to get funds to help actually make it happen. But I think in the end, we're just going to have a huge fundraiser that's not only going to support whoever the winning top 3 teams that are youth led, but also the nonprofits that are sponsoring each team will hopefully get some money as well. Well, definitely they're going to get spotlighted because they're the sponsors. So right now, you were seeing in Dr. Jamal's class, our first virtual cohort of entrepreneurs that are going through this challenge, and Colorado Future Tech is sponsoring it. The in-person will also have be a part of this youth challenge, where they have a group of kids that are coming up with concepts and ideas for social entrepreneurship, and that will be our Kings and Queens representative. And then we're hoping to have several other nonprofits come on board to sponsor social entrepreneur cohorts. So that's the goal. That's all of our on the ground stuff, but maybe you are into digital marketing. So we want to grow our audience on our social media. We've been very intentional this year, and it's really paid off dividends in terms of support and people following us and people knowing about us. They've been following us on our LinkedIn accounts and our Facebook accounts. And so it's been a great way to kind of multiply our engagement with people that we run into face to face. So if you want to help with digital marketing, we really desperately need someone to manage that. We need people to kind of document the journey that Jamal and I have been on to grow this thing. So we don't have anyone taking a lot of videos, and I wish we did, but that's what's been going on. You've gotten a really comprehensive deep dive that I haven't even been able to do at all this year with my team. And so I'm glad to have shared this with you, and that it's been recorded so that for those who couldn't make it, even they'll be able to catch up now on all the amazing things that God has blessed us to do through this thing called SparkU. Any questions? Any comments? Observations? Suggestions?
Mission and all that sounds like things I'm aligned with, so that's good.
Thanks, Joey. Grant?
I guess I know there were like a list of things that I guess you have as like your aims or your goals for the program. Um, so will there be something like each week or like that you would want to like discuss with us to make sure that we're focusing on? Like is that something that is going to be done or?
Yes, I would say every class we typically, so like right now we have Monday and Wednesday classes and Tuesday and Thursday classes, right? So what I would recommend is that I know for you, Grant, you can't make it to my afternoon class, correct? Typically, Jamal and I meet almost every day, but we usually will talk on Mondays about kind of the game plan for the whole week. So if you're joining, we have a Monday night meeting. That would probably, if you can't, join a class on Monday, either in the morning or in the afternoon, I would say definitely come to our Monday night team meetings that we have to get kind of that priority list. But we'll probably text it out on our group chat text as well on what we're working on or what needs to be done. Like right now, we're really needing bodies on the 24th. 24th is for whatever cray reason, a lot of nonprofits have decided to run events in the same time periods, same neighborhood. There's a lot of conflicting events that are all positive, all wanting to reach out and engage the neighborhoods. But we need coverage bad on that day. So I would say, please do not plan anything on the 24th. Be available to participate, whether it's more than likely it'll be like a booth, like we'll have a table there and we're just wanting to promote the programs that we have coming up. The other big push in terms of programs is we are looking for an apprentice to place. Ideally, that we want to place them by next month. But every week we don't have somebody in the pipeline is a week we got to push back when they would start the pre-apprenticeship IT, and it's an IT position. So we can dive deeper at a later time about that, or on Monday. We can talk about that. Okay. What that position looks like, and maybe if you even have some prospects that you can help us recruit for that big time. JB, I know we got to get off here in a minute. Do you have anything you want to add, projects or anything help wise?
Yeah, I think kind of what you said, just needing just help with different events, Joey's a good example of, being able to be a guest speaker for us on our behalf. So different things like that. Our biggest thing is really throwing you in there, and that's how we've learned, and that's how we like to teach you all, is just by doing it. So any opportunity that you can be available to go to some of the events. I'm gonna go to some of the events on the 24th as well, but it'll be great to have the team so we can kind of divide and conquer as well. Would be great. But a lot of the work we do, we may throw you in something just for your growth. I know it may be uncomfortable for you, but it's just to help you grow as a person, as a professional. And so sometimes some things may be, in order, and sometimes we might go take you on a loop. Just be ready to fasten your seatbelt and just be ready and prepared for where we may take you. So I'm just welcome aboard and excited to work with you all.